Hey YouTube, it's Andrew from Bushcraft and Chisel here. Um, I've previously established in one of my earlier videos that the MTech knife that I've got here seems to work quite well as a bushcraft knife. Certainly all my field tests and everything it didn't suffer any problems, it didn't have any setbacks with it. I could use it, to do everything I wanted to be able to do. But one of the comments I did make when I was testing it was that it from the factory, the degree of sharpness that you get in the blade is not spectacular. So what I want to establish now is, can I use the Lansky Sharpening system in order to sharpen this blade so that it is like a razor sharp? I mean, if I show you right now with a piece of paper, like whether I can, I mean, this is just, not really giving me much love here. So let's try again. It's mainly just tearing the paper. Yeah. So it's not exactly razor sharp. When you're using it to baton wood, it doesn't make a great deal of difference, but for fine tasks, you really want this to be really sharp. So I guess one of the comments about this knife that people would make that would be derogatory is that they would say the steel with this is like the mystery steel that MTech uses. It's 440, but they don't say whether it's 440A or 440C. And they would probably make the comment that the edge retention on this knife is not very good. Now, where I'm at the moment, I don't really care too much if the edge retention isn't perfect, because I really want to improve my skills in sharpening knives and knowing how to maintain them. So if I have a knife that I've paid, £400, £500 for, and it retains its edge forever, that's not really a very good thing for me to learn with, I mean, that would be maybe something that I would build up to. But in the short term, if I can buy a knife that costs, £20, and then I can sharpen that periodically to improve my sharpening skills, then so be it. And I think that works well for me. So I intend to use what's laid out in front of me here, the Lansky system to sharpen this knife. I've had this system for a while. I've just recently bought the pedestal mount for it, and I've just attached that pedestal mount to an old piece of wood I had lying around, an old piece of MDF, and I've used two C-clamps to bolt it to the table here so that this won't move anywhere. So that's what I'm going to intend to use. I should say that if you're researching the Lansky system and you want to use it, there's a guy called Aaron at Goff Custom. He's got a YouTube channel, Goff Custom. That's well worth a look at, because he's got some very detailed material on how to use this system to its maximum effect. And credit where credit's due. He seems to do really well at sharpening knives using this system. So I'm going to essentially replicate what he does and see if I can apply it to this knife and see if I can get a sharp edge. So stay with me and keep watching.
Now if you look very carefully at the clamp, you'll notice that where it makes contact with the blade, there's a small indent at the top of the clamp, and this is for use with smaller blades. Obviously it kind of goes without saying that the MTech is a fairly big sized of blade, so you want to make sure that you insert it to quite a depth in the actual clamp before you tighten the clamp up again, to make sure the clamp itself has a very good hold on the edge and that it doesn't move around and it's nice and tight in place. Now if you look at the technique that I'm using at this point in the video, it's not really good enough. And the reason it's not good enough is because I guess I'm not really being as aggressive with the hone as I should be. Now I've left this section of the video in so you can see that. This kind of like technique of moving the block with not much downward pressure and in a kind of almost circular motion as you work your way up the blade is useful when you deal with the last hone in the process. The very last hone, the 1000 grit one here in this case, you use that in this kind of circular, less aggressive motion when you're looking to remove the burrs that you've created through this process from the blade to try and smooth it off a little bit. But with the lower grit hones, the ones that you start with, you really need to take a much more aggressive kind of approach to sharpening the blade, which you'll see in just a second. So if you've done your sharpening properly, you should be able to use your fingernail and feel a burr on the opposite side from the one you've been sharpening. It'll just feel like a pronounced bump on your fingernail, and if you've done things right you'll feel that, but in this case I can't. Here's my more aggressive technique using the hone. When you're using it, just be careful that you don't accidentally overextend your reach and drive the hone beyond the actual edge of the blade. I've done that a couple of times, and I'm very wary of accidentally dulling the edge in doing so. So just try to keep your wits about you as you're using the hone, and make sure that you don't go too far.
Hello. Oh.
So one of the slightly more irritating points about this system is that sometimes whilst you're working, the guide rod can work its way loose. That's what's happened in this case. And whenever that does happen, all I do is sit the hone and the guide rod back down on the table, make sure that they're flush with one another, and tighten the retaining bolt up a little bit more so that you have them flush and staying flush. But just, keep awares that this can happen quite often if you're not careful. I've got to the point now where I can actually feel a pronounced burr using my fingernail all the way up the length of the blade. So that's good for this side. Now time to turn over. You'll notice with the first hone, the black hone, I've been working my way from the hilt edge of the knife to the tip of the knife. And now that I've changed the side over, I'll do the same. I'll work from the hilt to the tip again. When I move to the red hone, I will then work my way from the tip to the hilt on both sides. And then when I move to the green stone, I will work my way from the hilt to the tip again. And the purple stone, tip to hilt, and the yellow stone, hilt to tip. If I do this every time I alternate the hones, I should be able to see the grind pattern on the edge of the blade and see that I'm gradually polishing it out.
Ace was so fucking worried about his casino, he forgot what we were doing out here in the first place. A million times I wanted to yell in his fucking ear, "This is Las Vegas. We're supposed to be out here robbing, you dumb fucking heat." I don't give a shit who he's connected to. Tell him to take his fucking feet off the table.
Shop in West London, Mark Guest knows he's more of a target than most.
Right.
But as someone continuing the family tradition, he's got more than just money invested in this business.
I've been here since 15 years old. It's the only job I've ever had. It's the only thing I've ever done.
Mark knows better than anyone that organised criminals are everywhere, watching and waiting.
You know, I had incidents where I will physically see someone tapping my glass and taking photos of my windows.
So as I said, now I've moved to the red hone. I'm alternating my direction. I'm going from the tip of the blade as I sharpen towards the hilt of the blade. I should also say the whole of this sharpening process, I'm using the first hole down on the guide rod rail on the clamp. You'll notice that's the 25-degree angle. That seems to have worked for me okay for the MTech.
Okay, so I've systematically stepped up through each one of these honing stones, using it each one at a time on each edge, and reversing my process. Starting with one hone and going this way across the blade, then flipping it over and going from the hilt tip again, and then every time I've gone to each next stone, I've gone from the tip back down to the hilt again, and then alternated that across each one of these stones. So I've started at 70 grit, then I've moved to 120, then I've moved to 280, to 600, and then finally to 1,000. And in the final in the final stone, the 1,000 stone, I've tried to smooth out. You've seen me using my thumb to try and detect the burr created at each step to make sure that I've properly sharpened it each time. And in the last step, I've been kind of a lot less aggressive with the sharpening on the 1,000 stone, and moved in a kind of more circular pattern. And then I've used my thumb to kind of identify that burr is reducing in size. So now that I've done all of that, I'm going to take the knife off of the hone here, remove the clamp from it, and then have a look at using a leather strop to totally clean the edge and remove that bevel entirely, hopefully. And I'm going to use a warthog leather lapping pad that I bought from Heine Haynes. You can see there. So I'm going to give that a go.
In the lobby of the Hill House Bank in San Diego, a 10-year teller marshaled with her last manager her bag full, and then she was with a live power line. 1975, Marisol Chavez dies in her bedroom with hemorrhaging due to a miscarriage. In her nightstand, they find every single one of her teeth in a little plastic bag and a pair of bloody pliers. 2002.
You know, there's a huge difference between causation and correlation.
I know the difference, thank you.
Okay, then in 2001, Mom and Dad bought that new couch. Same year, Grandpa had a heart attack, Ray Shaw's got hit by a car, and our cat ran away. How much exactly went on that couch?
Can I get back to this now?
Sure, but let's get to it, Kaylee. Let's talk about why we're really here.
2002. The Last of Glass adorns the home office of Alan Russell, software designer. Husband to Marie. Father to Timothy and Kaylee. Within 2 weeks of its arrival, Marie suffers an intense psychological breakdown and is tortured and murdered in the family home.
By whom? By her husband.
So say the police reports.
And her husband was shot to death by her own son. Right in front of her daughter.
I intend to prove that none of the people I've just described were responsible for their actions. Alan Russell was not a murderer, he was a victim. One of many, as it turns out, victims of the supernatural force that resides in that mirror.
So why don't we just end it right now and smash the goddamn thing?
You don't remember, do you?
Remember what?
Please, smash it.
No, I've heard a lot about what happens to people who they can't. When they process something horrible. Mom was all kinds of questions about control.
Okay.
And once that belief's taken root, the mind takes random information and forces it to support that narrative.
It's hard to say whether it's sharper or not. Let's do another test. Let's see how we get on. Oh, wow.
Because I'm trying to.
The one thing Oliver was ever documented trying to break the mirror. Oliver Jeffries.
Nope.
1971, teacher in Manhattan's Doohan Academy for the mayor house for Russia House. On a morning, he opened the United States class report shouting about how it needed to be destroyed. He never got it. According to his students, he stood there quietly for almost a minute before he
think if you look at, that's not tearing, that's actually cutting through this.
You know why I didn't snap your thing? To stop you getting fired or stuff on my property. No one can put you to leave. You have to do it yourself.
You can run finals, Marshall. They're looking at a 20-pound downforce anchor. Another 20 pounds off the bar, attached to a modified balance rail and spring from rocket engine to a mechanical kitchen timer. No less important and
I think it's definitely sharper. Yeah.
the mirror goes right there. The only thing to prevent that from happening again is our continued survival. You know why we don't have to wait for it to come out and play? Because we got a loaded gun to its head.
Wow.
I expect it'll be eager to defend itself.
It's a bit, you get tiny little bits of paper left, doesn't make it particularly easy, but yeah. Yeah. So I think that's it seems to feel a lot sharper, but let's see. It seems to be a success, yeah. So yeah. It is possible to put an edge on it. I'm sure I can become more experienced at that and make that edge, make that a better edge that's on there. But wow, it's a damn sight better than it was, that's for sure. But yeah, thanks for watching. One final thing. Let's have a look at the hairs on my arm here. Let's see if I can get in real close here. Don't know if you can. Oh, let me get this into. Let's see. Don't know if you can see. Yeah. It's the hairs on my finger. So yeah, it's quite. You can see. You can also see by my arm here. There's now a big a patch here where there's no hair. So it will the edge is actually sharp enough to shave with. That's for sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for watching.